Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm Erin Creighton. I am the Adult Services Department Head and Assistant Branch Manager for the Fredericksburg branch of the Central Rappahannock Regional Library. I am thrilled today to be joined by Amber Dawson. Amber is the owner of Brompton Community School, and she's here to talk to us about why kids need time in nature every day, which is like such a cool topic for summer, Amber. So thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to do this. So today I will be talking about the importance of getting kids outside in nature every single day. And the American Academy of Pediatrics recommends 1 to 2 hours for most kids to be outdoors. So just a quick overview of what I'll be talking about today is one, the benefits of outdoor time. So why it's so important to get outside. And then the second thing I'm going to talk about is the benefits of adventurous, or what we call risky play, and why that's important as well. So not just being out in nature, but this idea that risky play adds to those benefits. And then how you get kids outdoors even when they don't want to, and what do you do with them once they're there. So kind of some practical tips about how you entice kids to get outside, and then how you keep them out there for that 2-hour time period every day. So the first thing I'm going to talk about are the benefits of outdoor time. And this is a picture of my little one outside. So I have some quotes mixed into the slideshow about, the idea of being outdoors. And this one is: the greener a child's everyday environment, the more wide-ranging the benefits. Improve self-discipline, attention, resilience, and cognitive functioning. And a lot of times people ask me why I think it's important for kids to be outside. And what I always say is it's not my opinion. This is 50 years of research has gone into telling us exactly the science behind why kids need to be outside. So the benefits are starting with, physical health. So we know that being outside in fresh air, is beneficial to kids. And once kids are outside, they can't help but move their bodies. So physical health is the first benefit for kids. A benefit for parents also: when your kids are outside moving, they're going to be more tired at night and they're going to sleep better. So that's a benefit for us parents. The second benefit is it boosts the immune system. Kids will actually be healthier by being outside. The number 3, it improves their eyesight. This one was the surprise to me when I started doing research years and years ago, that moving outside in nature builds the eye muscles that kids need for both near and far distance sight, which was incredible to me. That being outside improves your eyesight more than carrots. I thought was really interesting. And then better mental health. And this one is really big for me in terms of, all the statistics coming out today. If you've seen anything by Jonathan Haidt and the anxious generation, about kids' decline in mental health. So the rates of depression in young children, as little as first and second grade, we see it. Self-harm, thoughts of suicide, anxiety is really a huge thing across all age groups right now. Being outside is a quick way to boost mood, to improve mental health, to just feel better about yourself. It lowers cortisol levels, which is helpful. And I want to be clear that being outside is not a cure for mental health problems, but it definitely is a boost. It helps. It does help. It improves cognitive function and cognitive flexibility. So the ability for kids to be flexible in their thinking and not so rigid, not seeing everything as black and white, and be able to connect dots better. All that improves when you spend time out in nature. And then connection to nature seems obvious, but that connection to nature goes beyond just loving being outside or loving trees or, loving animals. It actually connects us to one another and builds better relationships. So that's why that connection to nature is so important. And so one thing I wanted to point out as well is that being outdoors isn't just beneficial to children, it's also beneficial for us adults. We also get benefits from being outside with our kids. So the benefits for adults are pretty much the same, right? Better physical health. We also tend to move when we're outdoors. It boosts our immune system. We have better mental health outcomes. It improves our cognitive function. And as a middle-aged lady going through menopause, that any extra help I can get with my cognitive function at this point is a benefit. So being outside improves cognitive function, even in adults. And that connection to nature for us also improves relationships, probably because it lowers our stress. And that makes us better listeners, better partners, better parents. And it also increases feelings of gratitude and awe. And all of those, just are help us feel better. Sunlight boosts serotonin and improves mood and emotional regulation. So just being in the sunlight, will help us, even if we're not moving, just sitting and letting the sun hit your face. If you've ever done that, if you've ever sat on the beach and closed your eyes and let the sun hit your face, that is definitely, that feeling of serotonin. And then, I lost my spot in my notes. Oh, I know what it was. I know where I am now. For adults, so for kids, the recommendation in the United States, the recommendation is 1 to 2 hours outdoors. In the rest of the world, so in the UK and Canada and Australia, they actually say 2 or more hours. And that is what my recommendation would be, is at least 2 hours a day outside to get the maximum amount of benefits. But for adults, we just need 20 minutes. So taking a walk on your lunch break, sitting outside for a morning cup of coffee, that you just need 20 minutes to receive those benefits. So that's excellent news for us, because we have less time, I feel like, than our kids do. I will add the caveat that for us adults, that 20 minutes has to be screen-free. So if you go outside on your lunch break, but you're scrolling on your phone, you actually lose the benefit of being in nature. So if you can, put a timer on your phone, set it somewhere where you can't see it, even just having the phone in your line of sight is not good for us. We lose the benefits. So leave the phone in, go out for just 20 minutes without it. And that's how we're going to get those benefits. That can be difficult, but give it a try. Okay, so now we know all the benefits of being outside. And we're going to add another layer to that, which is that idea of risky or adventurous play. And so adventurous play, let's see if I can, there we go. So adventurous play, again, that's my little one on our garden trellis there. Outdoor play is the idea that there's play with real or perceived danger. This kind of play is very exciting for kids. And I'll just read you what's on the screen here. This is from the Brompton Community School Student Handbook. Outdoor play is a basic need for children, and part of that play includes risk-taking. Risky play is about testing oneself, finding limits, and receiving the benefits. During risky play, children are pushing limits in a new, thrilling way. They're experiencing an element of danger, real or perceived, that allows them to develop well-being, self-esteem, confidence, gain cognitive skills, and learn how to independently assess and manage risks to be safe. And some examples of risky play are tree climbing, wading in natural bodies of water like rivers, creeks, or streams, walking in the woods, climbing over natural elements, building forts, shelters, or other structures. And the benefits of this play are, like I said, increased confidence, self-awareness. They also refine their gross and fine motor skills, and that ability to assess and mitigate risk is huge. So if you just take a minute to think about how the ability to assess and then manage or mitigate risk would help someone you know at work, or how an extra shot of confidence might help you, that's what we're giving our kids when we allow them to engage in this sort of adventurous play. And I could give a lot more examples, but I thought it would be easier to show you. So I have some pictures that I'll go through here on the slide deck, with some kids kind of engaging in those risky play behaviors. And I will say risky play is not hazardous play, and I'll talk about the difference in just a second. So here you see we have some shelter building. So kids have built this kind of fort structure, and then here they are building something. I have no idea what this turned into, but you can see these poles are longer than they are. They have some cinder blocks, and they're all kind of, they're building something fabulous with these loose parts. And then every child who climbs high, falls sometimes, and tries again is rehearsing for a future that demands confidence, adaptability, and bold thinking. Risky play today builds the leaders, problem solvers, and innovators of tomorrow. Really, this risky play allows them to be creative, to collaborate, it allows them to be creative in how they are working together. Okay, so they're learning how to problem solve, how to mediate conflict, how to collaborate, all of that when they engage in this risky play. And then, another structure here, they're also building simple machines. So it's not just that they're learning kind of those social skills, what we call the transferable skills, but they're also learning practical skills, that STEAM that we all want our kids to have, right? We want them to be proficient in science, technology, art, and math, all of those things. We want them to be proficient in that, but we have to let them practice, and we have to let them practice in a way that's going to make it stick for kids, right? And the way that they do that is through play, but specifically through this idea of adventurous or risky play. So letting kids do stuff like this, where they have a counterweight and a kid, and letting them test out what happens is crucial to developing those critical thinking skills and creativity and imagination, because they're always going to have to be thinking about, and they're always going to have to be imagining what could happen if we try X, right? So that's really important. That's my husband also engaging in risky play with our little one. And then, so the biggest barrier to risky play or adventurous play is us as adults. We are the greatest threat to that kind of play. And the reason I think that most adults are so hesitant is because we are afraid. We don't want our kids to get hurt. We want to keep our kids safe. And risky play looks dangerous because sometimes it is. But this study by Outdoor Play Canada is really helpful. So Outdoor Play Canada did a study that found a child would have to engage in risky play for 3 hours a day for 10 years before they would be at risk of injury that required treatment. And even then, the injury was likely to not be severe. And so if you think about your kid being out in the woods 3 hours a day for 10 years before they're at risk of significant injury is a pretty, it made me feel better about watching my kids do this, right? But again, I want to caution that risky play, adventurous play, is not hazardous play. And hazardous play, where it crosses over, is if there's an imminent threat of death or permanent injury. And that's where it crosses line into hazardous play, and that we want to shut down right away. So when it's just regular risky play, the easiest thing to do is ask a lot of questions. So we're not shutting down the play, but we are making our kids think about exactly why they're doing something or how they're doing something. And so the first thing that I tell our teachers at Brompton when we're doing our risky play training every year is, if something is looking dangerous, if kids are engaged in play and it's starting to look dangerous, count to 17. Because by the time you get to 17, the child has figured out that their body doesn't feel safe and they need to change what they're doing. They've stopped playing that way. And if they haven't and you still think it's dangerous, then now it's time to intervene. But by 17 seconds, the child has figured it out on their own and corrected the behavior. Adventurous play also needs to be scaled for the age and developmental ability of each child. So I'm not going to allow my 4-year-old to engage in risky play the way that I'm going to let my 14-year-old engage in risky play. So it's, keeping the, and a lot of it is self-correcting, meaning that, my 3-year-old's not going to try to climb as high as my 14-year-old because that doesn't feel safe to her body. But, just knowing that you're going to have to scale that based on the child. And adults have to co-assess and co-manage the risk, especially in the beginning, with the child. And by co-assess and co-manage, what I'm saying is going back to asking those questions. And so when you get in a sticky situation, and the example I use most often is if a child has climbed too high in a tree and you think it's not safe, or sometimes kids go up and they get stuck, right? And say, I don't know how to get down. If an adult walks over and starts shouting or saying firmly, you're too high, get down. All that kid is thinking about is, oh my gosh, I'm in trouble. How am I going to get out of this tree? And that is actually what we do not want them to be thinking about. And so our role as caregivers is to walk over to the child who's too high and say, okay, what's your plan? What's your plan is my favorite question when kids are outside playing. What's your plan? Because it makes the child think about, well, what am I going to do? And then my next question might be, does that branch feel safe to you? Where is your hand going to go? Where are you going to put your foot next? Does that branch feel safe to you? And ask those guiding questions so that the child can figure out how to get themselves down. Because the next time they're too high in the tree, there might not be an adult there. And those are the questions that I want that kid to be thinking about when I'm not there with them. Does this feel safe to me? Does my body feel safe? Where am I going to put my hand next? Instead of panicking and just thinking, I got to jump out of the tree. I got to get down. And so that's how we co-manage that risk and teach them to think through the process for next time when there's not someone to help. And then one way that I tell adults to determine whether play is risky play or hazardous play is I ask yourself, what is the worst possible outcome? If the worst possible outcome is death, absolutely shut it down, right? But if the worst possible outcome is they might break a bone, I'm not shutting it down for that. Because if that's the worst possible outcome, the most likely outcome is that they're going to fall and scrape a knee or hurt their bum, a minor abrasion, which is completely fine because those minor abrasions are how we prevent something really terrible from happening, right? Because they learn their limits that way. With those little bumps and bruises are good because they're testing their limits and learning where they are. So another example that I'll give you where play has become hazardous, and the question that I asked then. So, we have a lot of loose parts, logs, like you see here, cinder blocks, big rocks, pallets, wood, all kinds of things that they play with at Brompton. So sometimes kids will be carrying something heavy like a log or a cinder block. Cinder block is the one I see most often, and they want to put it over their head. And so my question is, what's going to happen if you drop that cinder block? I'm going to probably crack my skull. Yeah. So what do we need to do then? And then they bring it down. So making them think about what's going to happen, and then have them move it down. But you want to do that pretty swiftly, right? In all likelihood, they're probably going to be fine making it to where they're going, but that is still not an okay position to be in, and that would be hazardous play. We need to step in and correct that. Okay, so we've talked about being outside and the benefits of this adventurous or risky play and what that looks like. And so the next question is going to be, how do we get started? If you are not an outdoor family, it is okay. It is okay to not be an outdoor family. It is okay to not, as an adult, absolutely love nature and want to be outside all the time. It's okay. So step one is count to 17, right? Count to 17 and think, what's the worst possible outcome? If we go spend 5 minutes outside, how bad could that be? I might get hot. I might get mosquito bites. Put on bug spray. It's going to be fine. And then step two is go outside. My slide here. Go outside. So it really is as easy as opening your front door, opening your back door, and just going out. It can be that easy. You don't need special equipment. You don't have to go anywhere fancy. You don't have to drive to the mountains or drive to the beach or do anything other than walk outside. And then step three is do things. And so some of the more practical ideas once you're outside are taking a walk, right? That's a super easy thing, going out and taking a walk. You can make it a noticing walk. So when you're walking with your kids of all ages, you can say, what do you notice? And the way that I like to start is I like to start with me. What do I notice? Oh, I noticed there's a bluebird in that tree. Do you see that? What do you notice? And taking a noticing walk will entice kids to stay outside just a little bit longer because they're noticing things. They can color or draw or read outside. They can do a scavenger hunt. If you do an online search for nature scavenger hunt, there are tons of free online scavenger hunts you can print out. Free play is the best. So being outside in nature it's a whole package, right? That's one of the beautiful things about nature is it's a whole complete package. You don't need extra stuff to do that. So just free play, tiny missions. If you give them a task like draw a map of our backyard. Can you find four bugs that are all different from each other? Can you find 5 different plants? So giving them tiny missions will keep them engaged as well. And then a good one for the summer is water play. If you just stick a couple of containers of water and a scrub brush outside, magic will happen. Kids love to scrub things when it's not a chore. So if they're just given the tools and set free for free play and water, they will scrub some stuff, which is also another benefit for us parents. And then if kids are resistant or if you are feeling resistant, some tips to help with that are, one, start small. You do not have to, on the first day, open your door and go on a 2-hour hike. That is not probably going to be miserable for you and the kids. So starting small with just 5 minutes, a trick that I keep up my sleeve when I'm taking a new group of kids outside for the first time is I say, we're only going to spend 15 minutes outside. Only 15 minutes. I set my timer for 10 and take them in after 10, but they think it's been 15 because it's the idea that we're going to under promise and over deliver, because they're going to think, oh, that was quick. I can do 15 minutes. That's super fast. And so the next time when you say, okay, we're going to spend 20 minutes outside, it's going to feel a little bit easier and not so difficult for them. Let them lead. If you're going on walks, let them choose the route, right? We don't always have to be in charge. Let them pick what they want to do. Inviting friends is also another way to increase participation. Packing a picnic lunch and eating outside. There's something different about saying we're going to have lunch outside and saying, hey, let's go on a picnic. It's the same. You're doing the same thing, same steps, but a picnic sounds way more exciting. Working parents, it's especially challenging when we work full time. I know when we work full time, it's really hard to think about how am I going to fit 2 hours of outdoor time in my day. And so some ideas I have for that are, one, taking a walk before or after dinner. And what I love about this one is if you have multiple kids like I do, my kids are vastly different ages. I have 4, 14, and 21. A morning walk, I can take one kid. I can take one kid on a walk and get that one-on-one time with them in the morning before work. And then after dinner, we usually take a family walk. So we're all together. But those morning walks, one-on-one, are money. I really love those. And it does double duty because you're connecting with your kids in a different way. Play groups, tapping into your local community, neighbors, friends, babysitters. They just go outside for 30 minutes, right? Those 2 hours, by the way, don't have to be consecutive. It can be 15-minute chunks throughout the day. It can be, 4 30-minute blocks. It can be 2 1-hour blocks. Whatever it looks like, whatever works for your family, that's the right thing. Weekend hikes. You can do bigger amounts of time outdoors on weekends when you have more time. That's completely fine. Leverage summer camps. So, if you're going to put your kids in summer camp, why not look for one that's outdoors? And there are a ton of them here in Fredericksburg. So, the Virginia Outdoor Center, Fredericksburg Parks and Rec, there are tons of outdoor programs available here, which I really appreciate. And then friends and neighbors, like I said, tapping into that friend group in your local community to say, hey, 7:00 every night, we're going to go outside and play together. And remember, adults, we get the benefit after 20 minutes. So we don't have to be out that small or that long. So those are kind of the practical tips about, just getting our kids outside. It's not always going to work every day, and that is okay. Where you are is good enough. So you don't have to live off grid or hike every trail. Just start small, have breakfast on the porch. That's another one that I love. So small, consistent steps. That's okay. If you're too busy, it's fine. You didn't make it out yesterday, no problem. Just start from where you are and do what you can. And let that be enough. Let that be enough. Don't be hard on yourself, because the minute that we start judging ourselves, the more likely we are to stop doing it. And we just want to keep going. So if you only get out for 30 minutes a day for the whole summer, that's still okay because you were out for 30 minutes a day. Okay. That's our little adventures. And then if you have questions or you want more information, feel free to reach out anytime. I love to talk about getting kids outside and the importance of that. So I'm happy to do it anytime.
Thank you again for being here today, Amber. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Erin.